the inauguration of the President-elect Bola Tinubu and new government in Nigeria on the 29th of May, as INEC begins presentation of certificates of return to governors-elect in 26 states. As inauguration approaches, the Department of State Services (DSS) says it has identified some key players in the plot for an interim government in Nigeria. On the interview segment today, we will be discussing the 2023 elections and calls for interim government with the national coordinator of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju Swaga and former Minister of State for Works, Senator Dayo Adeyeye, as our guest. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Stay with us. We will be right back. Thank you for staying with us. As the inauguration of the President-elect Bola Tinubu approaches, the Department of State Services (DSS) says it has identified some key players in the plot for an interim government in Nigeria. In a statement by the Public Relations Officer of DSS, Peter Afunaya, the service considers the plot by some entrenched interest as not only an aberration but a mischievous way to set aside the Constitution and undermine civil rule, as well as plunge the country into an avoidable crisis. The DSS described the illegality as totally unacceptable in a democracy and to the peace-loving Nigerians. The service says the planners in their many meetings have weighed various options, which include sponsoring endless violence, mass protests in major cities to warrant a declaration of a state of emergency. The DSS insists it supports the president and commander-in-chief in his commitment to a hitch-free handover and will work in this direction. It also explained that it supports the Presidential Transition Council and such other related bodies in the states. A former spokesman of the Senate and chairman of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju, Senator Dayo Adeyeye, has called for caution from political parties, groups and candidates whose actions and utterances are likely to cause violence and unrest. He said all those who are not satisfied with the conduct of the election should go to court and desist from inciting citizens to cause violence and chaos across the country. TVC News senior correspondent Femi Akode reports.
The 2023 presidential election was keenly contested, and the outcome is also contested at various levels in different courts. It appears those who lost on the ballot have refused to accept defeat and have resorted to using both conventional and unconventional means to challenge the outcome of a democratic election. Senator Dayo Adeyeye, the national chairman of SWAGA 2023, warns that aggrieved politicians and candidates who failed to get the people's mandate through the votes and have become desperate to grab power should not be allowed to scuttle a democratic process that has been uninterrupted since 1999.
You want to ruin this country, you want to divide the country, you want to destroy the unity of the country, you want to say bye-bye to Nigeria. And some of us who are patriotic citizens will not allow that. Will I have voted? A candidate has emerged, he won the election, and then you are saying, no, you are looking for interim government. On what grounds are you looking for interim government?
There has been a deluge of fake news on social media, and it has set a dangerous trajectory that now threatens national security. Senator Adeyeye insists that security agencies should identify and prosecute individuals and groups that sponsor this deliberate misinformation to cause chaos.
I want to appeal to all Nigerians to disregard the noise making of these people who are trying to create anarchy. And I want for one thing to say that Nigerians should at least for once begin to reason and not depend on the prophecy of fake prophets.
Candidates not satisfied with the conduct of the election are in court to litigate against its outcome, but it appears their statements and actions outside the court may have also become prejudice against the judiciary.
I am saying that this election, as far as from the point of view of INEC is concerned, and from the point of view of any objective person, observer, we see that the election had been very, very good and transparent. And now they have gone to court, which is good. Go and prove your case in the court.
The federal government has already constituted a presidential transition committee that is fine-tuning the modalities for a smooth civilian-to-civilian transition on the 29th of May. Nigeria's president-elect Asiwaju Bola Tinubu will be sworn in as president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the president-elect Bola Tinubu has described his 71st birthday as a significant one, as it comes a few weeks after Nigerians gave him an honor and privilege of a lifetime to be their president. Tinubu thanked the Almighty God for life, opportunities and doors that has been opened to him along the way. He commended those who have expressed their goodwill messages towards him, as they have profoundly showed care and support. The president-elect affirmed his readiness to deliver on his mandate while thanking Nigerians for giving him the greatest gift, which is the opportunity to lead and fulfill destiny, champion aspirations of citizens and bring about the Nigeria of their dreams. He reiterated his commitment to the great and important task of rebuilding the country and renewing the hope of the Nigerian people. Let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with the national coordinator of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju and former Minister of State for Works, Senator Dayo Adeyeye, on the 2023 elections and call for interim government. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by the national coordinator of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju Swaga, Senator Adeyeye, a teacher, journalist and lawyer. Adeyeye is a prince of Isa Ekiti in Ekiti State, southwestern Nigeria. As a pro-democracy activist, Adeyeye was a member of the National Democratic Coalition, NADECO, after which he became the spokesperson of the Alliance for Democracy, AD, as well as the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party in 2016. He was a governorship aspirant in Ekiti State under the AD in 2006 and the PDP in 2018. In 2014, Senator Adeyeye was appointed by President Goodluck Jonathan as the Minister of State for Works. In February 2019, Adeyeye was elected Senator for Ekiti South Senatorial District before the court upturned his election. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now let's get started. Now, after you lost your bid to return to the Senate, you became very active in the political field, selling Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the people of Nigeria. And also you started this project so early. I'm keen to know what prompted you to push for Asiwaju to become president of Nigeria.
Thank you for that important question. I have known Asiwaju for quite some time. As you have said rightly, we are in the National Democratic Coalition together, and I happen to be the National Public Secretary of Afenifere from 1999 till about 2004. And that period, I have a very good opportunity to interact with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And it also afforded me the opportunity to evaluate his performance as the governor of Lagos State. And what I discovered was that this was the best performing governor of his era. He turned Lagos around completely. He set new parameters for governance in Nigeria. And I give you an instance, which I have also mentioned on other occasions. In 2001, Afenifere constituted a panel of eminent Afenifere personalities into two groups, one led by Chief Adeyeye, former governor of Kwara State, the other by Professor Bolaji Akemi, former Minister of External Affairs. And I happened to be a member of that committee. Our responsibility was to canvass the length and breadth of Southwest, to look at the performance of our governors then, the AD governors, 6 of them, who are elected on the platform of the AD. And as you know, AD was a political party formed by Afenifere. At the end of the exercise, we came to the conclusion that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the best performing governor among the 6 of them. And that impression had always been with them. And in an era in which Nigeria was sinking, in which people were losing hope, in which things that was despair everywhere, I thought, together with some of my colleagues, that we need to move Nigeria into a new direction. And we came to the conclusion that person was Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So what actually propelled me is my absolute belief in his capacity and his ability, and nothing else. I believe that as a patriotic Nigerian, we need to find that leader who can help us solve some of the myriad of problems confronting the nation at this very moment. And so we started very early. There are people who said we were starting too early, but we told them, well, of course, this is the presidency of Nigeria is a serious business. And we are not going to wait at the last minute. We need to start early to convince many people, the doubting Thomases, that this is the right choice, that this is the best person to move Nigeria forward.
All right, so before embarking on that project, did you discuss with him, or you were simply hoping he would agree to run?
No, we didn't discuss with him. We simply started. We are like-minded people who believe so much in his capacity and his ability. And so we started the project. We were convinced that over time we will be able to persuade him to throw his heart into the ring and join the fray. And that's exactly what happened. But we needed to at least be able to convince him that he has tremendous support, not only at his home base in the southwest, but even throughout the length and breadth of Nigeria. And as you know, even though Swagger was initially supposed to galvanize his support within the southwest, he later on moved into other zones of the country, to Kwara, to Kogi, to Niger, to Akwa Ibom, to Delta, to Nasarawa State, and so many other states of the Federation. So people saw the tremendous we were doing, the grassroots were convinced, the leaders were convinced, Obas, chiefs, the clergy, they were all convinced. We were able to persuade them to join hands with us, to persuade this man of exceptional character, of exceptional ability, of incandescent intelligence, to join us. I mean, to come in and help us rescue Nigeria.
All right, distinguished. So after you succeeded in getting him interested in the race, were you really convinced that Asiwaju would survive the presidential primaries of the APC and become the candidate of the party? And if Asiwaju had not won the primaries, what would you have done?
We were convinced, because when you put your hand into the plow, there is no looking back. We were convinced that he will win the primaries. As a matter of fact, I used to tell some of my colleagues that one good thing about this, about our project, was that the man we are projecting is the one who has the necessary grit to fight and to win. Because that is very essential in any struggle. The person who is leading the man we are projecting must be the one that has the ability, the capacity to fight and win. And he has that grit. And we believe that, well. And as you could see, we're actually not contesting in that primaries. You know, those who are talking about Southern agenda, that would not have happened. So we are lucky that we had him on the ballot. And we're also lucky that he fought this general election. I'm not sure if there is another person who could have been able to succeed. So we were convinced, we knew that he was going, that with our support and with his own personal capacity and ability and the structure for himself over the year, the goodwill that he enjoys in many parts of the country, the fact that he has tentacles all over the place, with his vast experience in governance and in politics, we were sure that he was going to succeed. And we were never even contemplating that we were going to fail. We never even imagined it for one day, so we have no second plans at all. Our plan was where we will work, Asiwaju will win the primaries, we will keep on fighting, and we will win the general election. And we thank God Almighty that God answered all our prayers. And today he is the President-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So after he won the primaries, was there any time you feared that he may not, win the presidential election, especially given the Naira crisis and the crippling fuel scarcity experienced in the months and days leading to the presidential election?
Yeah, there were a lot of people who feared that he might not be able to, that too many obstacles have been erected on his way that may prevent him from reaching his goal. But we were also convinced that Nigerians are intrinsically very good people who can understand issues. And the moment they realized that all those issues we have mentioned were deliberate obstacles erected on our part, we were able to make our case to the public, and I believe a sizable number of the Nigerian electorate bought into our argument, and they made up their mind that this was the man to rescue them. Look, for example, on the issue of the currency scarcity, Asiwaju was the only presidential candidate, the only one that sympathized with the sufferings of the masses. He came out strongly to oppose it and to say that the policy should be reversed, even though that policy had been instituted by the government of his party. You could remember that Atiku Abubakar and even Peter Obi, they came out supporting the policy because they thought it was to their own advantage. They thought that policy will make Nigerians to hate the APC and, by implication, hate the presidential candidate of the APC and not vote for APC. But they were wrong. Nigerians saw through them that these people were mere power mongers who were seeking power at all costs, who do not have the interest of the masses at heart. So he was the only one who came out boldly to say that this policy was not in the best interest of the people, and the people are suffering too much, and the government should reverse it. So, and you know that God Almighty always also come on the side of the righteous. So those who thought they will profit from the suffering of Nigerians, at the end of the day, they were disappointed.
All right, so on this program, and some members of the PCC have attributed your party's victory to, unity of the party. Some have said a better campaign strategy, and others have said the personality of the candidate himself. But for you, what factors, in your view, enabled Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to win the presidential election?
We attribute it first and foremost as a religious person to God Almighty. You can see the divine hand of God in this election. Number two, to Asiwaju's own personality, his capacities, abilities, experience as a politician, as an astute politician. And also, thirdly, to the unity of the leadership of the party. If you look at it, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was able to try as much as possible to bring the party together, not to allow it to disintegrate, not to allow disunity to creep in. So, immediately after the primaries, he went around to meet all his competitors, all those who are challenging him in the primaries. He went to their various houses to solicit for their support. He did not look down on any person. And he continued to work with the APC governors, with all the stakeholders in the party, meeting with them, and ensuring that there was cohesion in the party. Unlike some other political parties who are thinking they could win an election when they were so fractured and divided. So we were lucky that within the APC there was no fracture, there was cohesion, there was not, if there were problems, it did not come into the open, and it was not such that was going to jeopardize the chances of the party in winning the elections. So it was a combination of his experience as a politician. Is able to with people together, and the fact that we have a party that was ready and prepared to continue to retain power.
All right, so despite the victory, APC lost the states with the highest number of registered voters, states like Lagos, Katsina, Kaduna, Kano. How did this happen?
Well, most important thing is that we won the presidential election. We lost some of the states you have mentioned, Lagos, and that is why I keep on being very, very angry about those who are trying to delegitimize these elections, who are trying to say that this election was never free and fair. How on earth could Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu have done so much for Lagos, who had been in charge of that area since 1999, and this is presidential election? How could he have lost? if it was an election that could be rigged, that could be manipulated, there's no way we could have lost Lagos. Let's face it. And Obi would have won Lagos. So this election has been the best in the history of Nigeria. It has been the fairest and the freest and the most transparent election since the advent of democracy again in 1999. I have participated in every election since 1999, either as a contestant or as a voter or as a major supporter of any person who was contesting. And I can testify, I can say without any fear of contradiction, that this election of 2023 had been the best in the history of Nigeria. This is an election that created a lot of upsets. 20 governors lost their states in the presidential election. Children of governors, sitting governors, lost election into the House of Representatives. Many of the governors who wanted to go to the Senate could not make it. And the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria could not even deliver his state to the president candidate of his own party. So, and so many instances like that. Obi did not have a single agent in my polling unit. Obi did not have any agent in my polling unit. Yet, Obi won votes in my local government. He won votes in my polling units. You did not have to have agents in everywhere. This election was so transparent, was so INEC should be commended. Rather than anybody castigating INEC, Nigerians should be grateful and continue to commend INEC. And those who are saying that this election had been manipulated, the question I ask, prove it. We know that the process of election is along this line. Everybody goes to their polling unit to cast your votes. The votes are counted. They are recorded in Form C8A. And every agent of the political parties sign these papers. And from there, it is taken to the ward level, where the same process will take place. The votes from the polling units are collated at the ward level. And then the agents of the political parties also sign these papers. And then from there, you move to the local government level, and the same process will also take place. Then to the state level, and ultimately at the national level. If you are saying you are rigged, all you needed to prove was to demonstrate the fact that this is the vote given to me by my agent in a particular polling unit, and it is different from what has now been collated. That's all you needed to prove. That's all you needed to prove. So, but we have not seen that. We are only saying that people have been saying the results were not uploaded on real time. They were not, IRF was not functioning on the day of the election. That does not prove, that does not indicate that the election had been rigged or manipulated. And now that the results have been uploaded into IRF, please come and show me these discrepancies. They have not been able to do that. Because if you say the election was rigged against you, what you needed to demonstrate is to say, okay, my vote in total particular unit should have been 300, but I was given 150. I have not seen anybody saying that. You are merely shouting that the thing was not uploaded. And I want to tell you that there was no even need, that is not even an excuse. Because if you are a real politician who is very serious about who knows your onions, we are now in the era of technology. Everybody has a phone. In my own area, what I simply told those who are close to me and my local government was that take the pictures of the result in your polling unit, upload it to a particular person using your phone. How is that different from uploading into IRF? And then you simply confirm later on you collate it and you relate it to the result that have been declared. I can tell you that even before I declared their result in my local government on the day of the presidential election, I already know the result because each of our agents had been able to take a snap of the result at the polling units and send it to a particular WhatsApp platform from where we were able to collate it. People are making a mountain out of a molehill. They are creating an impression that by not uploading to the IRF, therefore the election was never transparent, therefore the election was never free and fair. This is absolutely wrong. We had the best election in the history of Nigeria. The beavers worked perfectly well, and I want to commend INEC for doing a fantastic job. We have to change this narrative of the anarchists who want to throw Nigeria, who want to destroy Nigeria at all costs, by casting aspersion on the integrity of the chairman of INEC, by trying to imply that anybody manipulated these elections, which is not correct. It's not correct. From what you can see, this election has never been manipulated. And I give you, another instance. In the case of Nasarawa State, one of our senatorial candidates was not given a return ticket in the primaries. He went to SDP. He won the election under the auspices of SDP on the day of the presidential election. And in that state of Nasarawa, LP won the presidential, yet two of them were able to win their senatorial seats using the platform of SDP. How was that manipulated? Tell me.
All right, distinguished. Now, the election is over, but the outcome is still generating reactions. Why this? Some are angry about the process, while others are upset about the outcome.
Because Nigerians, these people are bad losers. They want to throw Nigeria into chaos. They know inside them that this election was very free and fair. This election has been the people are making the greatest noise, and even those who you could even have suspected of manipulating in their own various areas. Look at it. Ashwaju did not win 1% in any of the southeastern states. 1% of the votes. And we are not complaining. Yes, it is possible that all of them decided that they were going to vote for one person. It's possible. And these people, and I believe that they are being sponsored by internal and external saboteurs, and this is why security agencies to investigate them. They want to throw Nigeria into chaos. Can you imagine some people will be advocating for interim government? What is interim government? On what basis? What will be the mandate of the interim government? And on what legitimacy? What will confer legitimacy on them? I don't know. So, we have had an election. People have voted. The results have been counted and the result declared, and a certificate of return issued to the winner, and the winner is now the president-elect of Nigeria. And by the grace of God, he will be sworn in on May 29 this year.
We've also seen that the PDP presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and that of Labour Party, Peter Obi, have challenged the outcome in court. Are you worried about this, and how much confidence do you have that you will be able to defend the mandate in court?
I think going to court is the reasonable thing for them to do. Our constitution is very comprehensive. It has made provisions for people it has made provision for people to ventilate their grievances through certain avenues, and the court is one of them. In fact, it's the main one. So if you are not satisfied with the outcome of an election, you go to court, and court will be the final arbiter. So that is it. I'm happy they have gone to court. Well, it's their constitutional right to go to court. But we wait for them there to come and prove how the election has been manipulated. We are waiting for them to do that. So
how confident are you?
But they have taken the right step. I'm confident that at the end of the day, because like I have said, I have repeated it over and over, that this has been the best election in the history of Nigeria. Some people are making noise that it's been the best election in the history of Nigeria. And because of that, our judiciary will do the right thing. They will uphold the wishes of the people of Nigeria. They will uphold the mandates that have been freely given by the people of Nigeria to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So I'm very confident that at the end of the day, those who have gone to court, yes, have gone there, but at the end of the day, the result of the election will be validated by the courts.
So you've also asked that INEC gets some kudos for this election, but some have also boldly said that INEC gets all the blame for the loopholes and discrepancies experienced during that election. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Like I said, I participated in many elections. How do you blame INEC for? What are you blaming INEC for? I want to know. INEC conducted a free and fair election. The beavers worked perfectly well. Elections were collated at the appropriate levels, and nobody had been able to dispute that there are discrepancies between what was collated at unit level, between the result declared at unit level and what had been collated at the local government, state, and federal levels. Nobody had been able to say that. Nobody had been able to give us an alternative figure. I would have expected Labour or even a PDP to come out and say, now we have gotten the result from all our agents from all the units in Nigeria, and this is the result we have. They have not been able to do that because they know that the INEC has declared the correct result. They know that. So INEC cannot be blamed for anything. If there are pockets of violence around the country, in some places in the country, pockets of violence, Are you blaming INEC for that? Was INEC the cause of the violence, or the politicians themselves who want to make sure that who do not want the process to work effectively and efficiently?
You know, I asked this question because there are reports that the BVAS was bypassed in some elections. All right, this discussion will continue after this break. Please stay with us.
All in favor say aye. Those against no, the ayes have it.
What do you know about the legislature, its role in governance, and as one of the three arms of government? Lagos Parliament is here to bring it to you as it is. Here to bring you every detail you need to know about the legislature in Africa's most populous city. On Lagos Parliament, you get a chance to meet the lawmaker of the week. Events are critically reviewed. You can also observe plenary in Yoruba language. I am Abimbola Agbebi. Join me every Friday at 9 p.m. as I take you through the activities of the legislature.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight. On the program this evening, we're discussing the 2023 elections and calls for interim government with the National Coordinator of the Southwest Agenda for Asiwaju Swaga and former Minister of State for Work, Senator Dayo Adeyeye. All right, distinguished. Now, in the middle of this, some people are calling for interim government and sack of INEC chairman. Why do you think they are making such calls?
Because, for me, they are being sponsored by some internal and external forces that do not wish Nigeria well, that think maybe they have lost out in the power game, and they are therefore looking for any means by which they can come to power through the back door. But I can assure them that will never happen. The vast majority of Nigerians have given their mandate to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They have freely elected him in the best election in the history of this country, and he will be sworn in by the grace of God as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So those calling for interim national government, I want the federal government to take a hard look at them, investigate them for their acts of treason, and to prosecute them. The weight of the law should be made to bear heavily upon them, because these people do not wish Nigeria well. We have concluded an election, and the election, if you are not satisfied, there is a venue for you to ventilate your grievance, and that is through the courts. And you have gone to court, and yet some people are daily calling. I mean, on what basis will you be calling for interim government? Which interim government? An interim government not elected by Nigerians? You are indirectly calling for a coup. And in this age and time, anybody calling for a coup in Nigeria, I want to warn them, the so-called advocates of interim government, who may not know what the dangerous game they are playing. If you ride at the back of the tiger, you are going to be the fed that the tiger will consume, the first person the tiger will consume. So let us continue with our constitutional government, a government of certainty, a government freely elected by the people, a government of the people, by the people and for the people, not a government of people you do not even know at all, who may come from nowhere and who do not owe you anything. They did not seek your mandate and say they can treat you anyway. We have lived through military rule. We have seen. We are able to compare both the military and civilian regimes, and of course, nobody wants any return to military rule in Nigeria. Neither are we going to allow any unconstitutional government, and a government not freely voted for by the people of Nigeria, not put in place by the people of Nigeria, to come and rule over us. We are not slaves. We are not animals. We are civilized people, and we have made a constitution for ourselves to freely elect our leaders every 4 years, from local government to the national level. And that is what will continue by the grace of God.
So what impact do you think this will have on the polity?
It will see out. You see, again, let's look at it. It's not as if this thing is peculiar to Nigeria, absolutely. People now, there is an assault on democracy, not only in Nigeria, but everywhere. People not wanting to accept the outcome of elections. We saw it in America, even the greatest democracy on earth. President Trump refused to accept the outcome of the 2020 election in America. And up to today, as we speak, Trump continues to dispute the legitimacy of that election. So much so that even some of the Republican members of the Trump's party, stormed the Capitol, which is the legislature of legislative chambers of national legislative chambers in America, stormed the place, destroyed a lot of properties, destroyed things there, killed people, and many people lost their lives. So we have seen that. We also saw it in Brazil last year. So we have entered an era in which there seems to be those people who think that they are not winning elections to mount a terrible assault on democracy and to destroy it. And this is a bad thing Nigeria has again copied from our foreign countries. Otherwise, we are saying we are not going to allow it here. We in Nigeria, we are a young democracy. We cannot afford such assault on our democracy. And therefore, that is why the security agencies should keenly watch these things, watch these elements who are trying to create anarchy and chaos, and bring them to book fast.
All right, some protesters also, went to the defense headquarters to ask for military takeover. Why do you think anyone will want military rule at this time?
I have said it already, that if they want military rule, I will not be one of those who will live under a military rule anymore in this country. By the grace of God, we have fought against military rule. We will never live under military rule. A civilian government is always better. A democratic government is always better. Because even if you are not happy with the outcome of the election, it's only 4 years by which, okay, you can galvanize people again and fight your way through, and you may be able to now win, and then you'll be in power. Nobody in the democracy is going to be in power forever. Those people who went to the defense headquarters to kneel down begging for military rule, they should have been arrested, and by now being arrested, incarcerated, and prosecuted. They demand the Constitution, that's treason. And the heaviest punishment will be inflicted upon them. The full weight of the law should be brought to bear upon them, because that is pure sabotage, that's very unpatriotic. That is the most despicable thing anything can do in this democracy. And I believe they should be identified, even if they have gone, they should still be identified, their videos are available. The security agencies should go after them, arrest them, and bring them, inflict the severest punishment upon them.
All right, so what do we blame for this? Is it lack of a sense of history, or the protesters were too young to know the dangers inherent in military rule?
These protesters, the one you saw who knelt down in front of the defense headquarters, they are not the ones I want to blame. They are sponsors, and that's why the security agency should investigate them, arrest them, and bring them over, and they will spill the beans. They are just the people being used, collected on the street of Abuja, paid a few naira, maybe 2,000, 3,000, giving some other gifts, and they are asked to go and put their life on the line. But the powers behind them are sitting in their rooms, thinking that they can get power from the back door. So those people you saw there are not the ones. There are people, some powerful forces behind them who are instigating them to continue with these acts of illegal and very, very despicable acts. And that is why I'm amazed, I'm surprised that they were not immediately arrested and put to jail.
So, as against those who are asking for a military rule, some protesters have faulted the calls for interim government and insisted on inauguration of Tinubu on May 29. But for how long do you think this accusation and counter-accusations will continue?
Well, like I've said, I am not too. It's not too new to Nigeria. In the case of America, even up to now, after 4 years, almost 3-4 years, they are still agitating. But I believe by the moment Ashwaju is sworn in on 29, everything will fix. We now have a group of people in Nigeria who are prophets, fake and false prophets, all over the place. And I have seen a video of one of them who said, yes, Ashwaju will be declared president-elect, but he will not be sworn in, and there will be one way or the other coming through an interim government. I laughed. That will never happen. Those are prophets of doom. And the earlier the security agencies begin to focus on these people who can cause anarchy in society, the better. Because we cannot continue to allow people to preach hatred, to preach falsehood, to manipulate the people, to commit crimes against their country. And then we just sit down there watching. That should stop. Those people should be invited and interrogated by the security agencies. So I believe that the moment Asiwaju is sworn in on May 29, all these agitations will fizzle out, and then everybody, of course, those who are sponsoring them, perhaps they will take a back seat. And those who have been used, the ones you see in the streets are not the problem. Those ones are paid in a society of extreme poverty like this. It's not too difficult to find 200 people, 300 people that you can give to 2,000 people naira to move to the streets and be demonstrating. And those are the people that you see on the streets. But by the time the president-elect is sworn in on May 29, everything will fizzle out.
Senator Adeyeye, do you harbor any fear that the inauguration won't take place?
I do not have any fear at all. Because the alternative is to take Nigeria to anarchy and chaos. And I don't think that would be in the interest of anybody. So I am absolutely sure. The president has already set up his transition committee. He has asked the president-elect to nominate 2 members into it, which have been done. They are working assiduously towards making this inauguration free and smooth and successful. So I believe that everything is on course. So I have no fear at all.
All right, so before we move on to other issues, let me quickly get your thoughts on this. The 2023 general election was marred by so much bad blood and hatred among Nigerians. But given the way the campaigns went, was this inevitable?
For me, the campaign went very well. There was no rancor, there was no problem. People did not use abusive language against themselves during the campaign. The campaign was by and large very civil, all round. I couldn't actually blame any of the presidential candidates for any incendiary comments or maybe incitement of the people. But I think some people placed their expectation too high on winning. They thought they were going to win this election, and I don't know how they came to that conclusion. They thought they were going to win. When they were disappointed, it was too much for them to bear. And those who are their sponsors would not stomach it as well. And I think that's what led to what you have seen. People were having false expectations of what was going to happen. I don't know. Actually, Bola Ahmed Tinubu was disparaged, they were vilified, they said all sorts of things about him. They did everything to bring him down. And so they thought, well, maybe they have succeeded. But Nigerian electorate knew better. They knew better, and so he was elected. And I think those people's expectations were dashed, and they were terribly disappointed, and they could not bear it. And that's why we are seeing these rantings all over the place. People, justly demonstrating and making wide allegations and wide declarations, saying that the election has been the worst in the history of Nigeria, without any shred of evidence.
All right, so post-election, some prominent Nigerians have stressed the need for a government of national unity. What's your view on this?
What is the need for a government of national unity? What do they mean by a government of national unity? By the Constitution of Nigeria, there's no way the president will constitute his cabinet that will not have representation from every state of Nigeria in his cabinet. That's unity. That's a government of unity by implication. What some people meant by government of national unity is that Asiwaju will now say, okay, you are my opponents. Come and sit down and let us form the government together. Simply because, and how is that going to even work in an election you have been disputing? You have created so much bad blood, chaos all over the place. I think the government that will be formed by Asiwaju, and they have said it, is a government of national competence. Competence. People who can move Nigeria forward, who can change the trajectory of Nigeria, who can who can take Nigeria to the next level of rapid socio-economic development. That is the government that we need in this country, and that government will have people from all the states of Nigeria. Is a constitutional provision. It cannot be avoided. It cannot be jettisoned. there's no way it will not be complied with. So you cannot avoid compliance with it. So that will be about unity, because every state of Nigeria will find their people, their representative in that cabinet. So, and to me, for me, that is a government of unity.
All right, Senator, as it looks, you're very opposed to national unity. But then, what steps do you think we should take towards national cohesion?
I'm not opposed to national unity.
All right, government of national unity.
My own definition of government, my own definition of government of national unity is what I have told you. I have said that by Constitution of Nigeria, our founding fathers, those who wrote this constitution, were diligent enough to ensure that no part of Nigeria will be neglected. No part of Nigeria will be sidelined in the cabinet of the federal government of Nigeria. Everybody has to come in. It's a constitutional provision, and we have federal character also in our constitution. So that all those factors were enshrined in the constitution to bring about unity. But what some people mean by government of national unity is that after creating chaos, anarchy, and bad blood, then they should be compensated with it. Be compensated for it by bringing them into government. Of course, the prerogative is that of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu to make. But I am of the opinion that when you do that, next election you will see people who even create even more chaos in the hope that you will try to placate them by bringing them into government. And I don't think that's the way for Nigeria to move forward. We need a government of national competence, of very capable people, very quite experienced, who can move the nation forward.
All right, so upon inauguration, what key areas will you advise the president-elect to urgently attend to? If
you look at the manifesto of the president-elect, Renewed Hope, one of the major areas of attention, which I personally will want him to focus on totally, is the area of education. Education is very key, very important. Number one, and when you talk of education, we want to put a final stop to this incessant strike by university lecturers. We want our university calendar to be certain, without any interruption, any disruption, so that when people, like Asiwaju himself said, enter for a 4-year course, there should be certainty that they will conclude that course at the end of 4 years without any unnecessary elongation. So that is very important. And we need to arrest the growing number of out-of-school children. We need to make education more affordable to the masses. We need to improve the condition. We need to improve the facilities in our universities and other tertiary institutions. So education is very key, and it's also important that we continue to give scholarship for people to go to have experience also abroad. So the area of education is very important. Agriculture is very important. A nation that cannot feed itself is not what cannot really truly be called a nation. So we must focus on agriculture, and we are talking of modern agricultural practices which should be instituted to make sure that we quadruple our agricultural output and then create employment for so many people in that sector. We need to industrialize this country. We need to join the League of Highly Industrialized Countries. And I believe that Asiwaju will focus attention on that. The area of ICT, of technology, our boys are extremely good, brilliant. And we must encourage them and become the technological hub of Africa, here in Nigeria. And then, of course, we also need to promote, to focus attention on some of those areas that we have already demonstrated our comparative advantage. For example, in the area of entertainment, music industry, entertainment industry, we must continue to encourage that. We must continue to make sure that we encourage the practitioners in those sectors to be even more creative and to be globally recognized. So, and so many other areas that I believe Asiwaju can focus on. And I believe that number one, it will generate more revenue. It will end the issue of leakages in the system through things like oil subsidy, fuel subsidy and all that. He has already said He will put an end to fuel subsidy. I absolutely support him in that. The amount of savings from that can be diverted to education, to agriculture, to industry, and to so many of the areas I've mentioned earlier. So, and I believe this, when we do that, Nigeria will move rapidly towards development, and it will be better this for all of us in this country, by the grace of God.
Amen. All right, so as someone who knows him very well and pushed hard to have him elected, what kind of president do you think Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be a very compassionate president. He's known to be very compassionate. A man who does not like the suffering of the people, a man who is very attentive, very caring. He's going to be very compassionate. But most importantly, he's a president who knows by himself. He has the requisite experience, and he's going to assemble the best brains in the country to help him run the administration of the country. And because he himself has his own ideas, he's a man of ideas. Like I said, he's a man of incandescent intelligence. So with that, I believe that he will be able to direct the affairs of state in the right direction and move the country forward positively.
All right. I've been discussing the 2023 elections and calls for interim government. Thank you very much for your time, Senator Dayo. Adeyeye.
Thank you for having me. And I thank the people of Nigeria for watching.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at CVCNewsNG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Join us for the repeat episode at midnight and tomorrow for another edition of Politics Tonight. Digging beyond the headlines. I am Olajumoke.
If you want to become something, become a child again. Why be a patient?